I gotta figure out how to get my thing back here. Yeah. There we go.
Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We will wait about 2 or 3 more minutes and let everyone else who has registered enter the room, and we will get started.
I know Ryan Antecchi, no way.
Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are going to wait about 1 more minute. We've got lots of people who registered for this afternoon. We're going to see if we can give them an opportunity to enter the room. Welcome everyone to today's Tennis Industry United webinar, Maximizing Time, Maximizing Courts, Large Group Activities Done Safely. I think you're going to really enjoy today's webinar. A couple of reminders before we get started. You will notice you do not have your video on and you do not have your audio. So if you've got something that you would like to question, comment, please post that in the question and answer box. We'll be taking those towards the end of today's webinar, or put something in the chat and I can respond to you. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available later today on the Tennis Industry United website. Also check back there. We have another webinar next week about how to start a wheelchair tennis program, and that'll be next Wednesday at 3 p.m. So that's all the housekeeping we have. So I think it's, I want to hurry and get started with our time here, because this is going to be fabulous. Very, very excited that Jorge Capestany has taken the time to be with us this afternoon. Jorge is one of only 11 people worldwide that have the distinction of being a master professional with USPTA and an international master professional with PTR. He has been named the National Pro of the Year by both organizations. He's internationally recognized speaker that's presented over 200 times at major tennis conferences all over the world. He is a 6-time Michigan Pro of the Year, 2-time Midwest Pro of the Year, and a member of the USPTA Midwest Division Hall of Fame. Many of you know Jorge for developing 2 leading tennis industry websites, one for tennis coaches, one for players. Both websites can be found at capestanytennis.com. He's also been featured on the tennis channel. And if that's not enough, Jorge, you're also the leading the PTM program at Hope College, and in your spare time managing the DeWitt Tennis Center up there.
That's
So
right.
not a whole lot going on for you.
That's
So
right.
I'm going to get out of the way and let you take this over, Jorge, because you've got some great stuff.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Anne, for the invitation. I'm excited to cover some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, doing large drills, large group activities, and how to do them safely. So I think what I'd like to do, for the most part, is rather than just me talk to your face, I created a PowerPoint, and I think it might be helpful to do that. So let me see if I can share this properly, and hopefully this will work good. So let me know if it doesn't. Click here. Okay, so can you see my screen and the title screen there?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so that's basically our topic. We're going to be talking about, and for those of you that don't know, I teach in Michigan. We were locked down pretty hard, and definitely March, April, May. We were allowed to start doing our group lessons outside in June, and we have a big academy and draw 60 kids on 12 courts. So we were, learning kind of as we went what to do. So let me just kind of list for you what we're going to cover. I'm going to show you all the modifications that we made to our drills for safety. We're going to show you probably 6 or 7 large group drills, which I define by having at least eight people on a court, as opposed to maybe 4 or 6. We'll talk about large group warm-ups. I'll show you a few videos of what we do. And then we'll have a little question and answer period at the time, and we'll go from there. So let's just get started, because what you'll see on my screen right now is a very typical thing. So I do travel a lot. When I speak out at conventions, almost always it's on the topic of drills. And quite often, when I ran cardio for a lot of time with Michelle and those guys, we would have 8 people on a court, sometimes more. Okay, so what I want you to notice on my screen is just about every time I train people on how to run large groups, I'll ask them what they do, and they'll show me, and they have a similar court setup to this. So you can see on the left side, we have what's likely the champions, players number 1 and number 2, okay? And then, so you see them right there. And then on the other side, we have the challengers, and they're all stacked up 3 deep over there. Okay, so right now, if you just look at that, in the era of COVID, that's probably not the most spread out I could be, right? So I'll show you what we're doing. So if you look at on the right, the people on the end, number 7 and number 8, basically I take 7 and I just have them move, and I take number 8 and I have them move. So I redistribute. Okay, so now I have even players over here and even players over there. Now, to be honest, this little setup of 4 on each side versus just 2 on one side and 6 on the other, it wasn't born from COVID. I actually had figured out that this is a much better experience, because if you have just player 1 and 2, they get to play a ton. And if you're on the other side, you don't get to play very much at all. So it just makes for a better experience as well. So this is the setup I would use now going forward. I don't ever go back to that one side with just 2 and the other side with 6. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this thing. Auto rotate, versus when to rotate. So I grew up and I experienced when to rotate. What that means is, if there's a champion side, that you don't get to go to the champion side unless you win all the points, or 2 out of 3, or whatever the rule is by the coach, right? And quite literally, that's all I knew. I never did anything else. I never saw anything else. My personal coach never showed me anything else. But then when I wanted to, I was paying closer attention to, the evenness of who's hitting more balls than others. I decided to test this auto rotate. So the auto rotate theory is just basically saying, instead of winning 3 to get over, you're just going to rotate. You're going to play 3 points or 4 points, however many I want. And then all 4 players are going to automatically rotate. And that has done 2 things. It's made for better tennis. It's made for a better workout. And it's also made for better safety with COVID. So let me show you another thing that we saw. Day number 1, we had this issue in our academy this summer. So this would be a typical setup if I was doing an 8-court drill. I got players 3 and 4, they're ready to play. They're going to score up against players 1 and 2. And here's the coach. And then these guys are on deck, 5 and 6 on deck, 7, 8 on deck. So what would happen is this: as soon as the, for me, it's usually 3 points and rotate, right? So watch player number 3. He would rotate, and we would teach him to go north, and he's going to end up over here. His partner, player 4, would go south, and they basically split. And then player 1 and 2, watch them. 1 goes north, and 2 goes north. This is our old traditional way, right? But watch. What do you notice there? My rotation, the old rotation, was inadvertently meant to bring them together. As a matter of fact, I wanted these 2 players to go next to each other. I would say, confirm your score, so there wasn't any cheating on score, and these guys would confirm their score. And I'd even have them give each other a high five. Give your partner a high five on the way back. But now that's exactly what I don't want to do, right? So my original rotation, that's how we would do it, and this was the problem. So we needed to change that. So here's what we do now. Instead of player 3 going this way and 4 going this way, watch the rotation. Watch player 3. He goes north, okay? But player 4 also follows him and goes north. 1 and 2, watch what happens. 2 goes south. He's to switch sides, and 1 follows him. And then the next 2 players, that's 7 and 8, they step in to play, and they're going to play against 5 and 6. And now I've basically done the same thing, and I've got them switching, but I totally avoided bringing them together, okay? As soon as these guys are done, 5 will go this way, 6 will follow him, 8 will go this way, number 7 would follow him. So that's a clever little way to rotate with this scenario that has helped a ton. It's a little weird because we did have so many years of having them go where they actually pass each other, and now we're trying to avoid that. Okay, so that's just another little thing that we learned on the fly that I wanted to share with you. Okay, let's talk about demo time. So for us, when we do a demo, this is how we typically do it. The coach will come out here, we have all his players lined up here. You can see right there, they're not very socially distanced, they're all kind of packed in. But that's the way it was, right? And up until this time of COVID, these players are likely even closer, and they're talking to each other. And the pro's like, be quiet, I'm demonstrating. So this is a typical setup. So now, no, this is real shocking, but this is what we do. We just say player 1, this is how we do it. We're going to spread out all these players. So now they look like that. And now look at the space I have. So they're, with 8 players, you can be way more than 6 feet apart. The one thing that would be important now is a little more challenging for the coach to be loud and audible so people can hear you. You probably want to relocate yourself and walk up and down here. This is something our friend Ann knows this. Mike Woody calls this the coach's corral, where you bring them all together and you do your demo. All right, so that's a pretty simple one. But what I found, the last thing I'll tell you is, even when I say this, I'll set them up here, and then I'll say something to the effect of, okay, everybody, notice where you are, look at where you are, okay, see that? That's where you're going to stand for every demo, because we're probably going to do 6 or 7 demos in a class. And I say that, and of course, they don't always do it perfectly. They'll get close. So now what I've done is I put little pieces of tape on the ground there, or I put little throwdown lines so that if they're not on line, I say grab a piece of tape, stand on it, and it's pretty easy. So that's another one that I think a lot of people are already kind of doing. All right, now I wanted to show you several drills. Okay, so I think people might be interested in some of the drills, so I just want to show you. These are all drills from my website, and I think the best way for me to show these, and it's just to walk over. I don't want to have you listen to audio in case it's not good. So I'm going to play this video, and I will talk it over. This one here is called triples. Remember, these are all a minimum of 8 people on a court, and I'll just jump out. What I'm doing here, as soon as we go to the top view, I'll freeze. All right, so I got a team here. Player, and on decker, there's another one hiding back here. On this side, I got a player up, a player back, and the 2 guys on there. So there's my players. That side over there is the feeding side. Very simple drill. You feed it, you rush in. That's the only rule you have to do. And then you play it out. And then notice the rotation. You're going to rotate 1 spot on your own court. So this group of 4 people, they're a team. And that's another team. And it's just an underhand feed cross court, and you duke it out. And you play it out. So single point and rotate. Watch this point. As soon as it's done, they quickly rotate. Next guy should be feeding without any delay. So it's a simple enough drill. But let me tell you what I love about it. This drill, and what we'll do is I want to point out one thing. And none of these drills were refilmed for COVID. So this is how we used to do them traditional. So you'll see like this one is fairly good, right? It doesn't bring people together too much. But we're also going to talk about how each one of these could be modified even now, because to be honest, I haven't had a chance to refilm a bunch of these. I intend to film like a dozen drills, specifically tweaked for COVID and for spreading out, but we can't film in the club yet. So in Michigan, our indoor courts are still semi shut down. So all we're doing here is we're taking the first part of a doubles point. So this is my thing to write down if you write something down. A drill is nothing more than a piece of a tennis point, right? So in doubles, there's a lot of times where the person will be coming in and receiving a ball. That's a very high, frequently experienced scenario. So I just set up the drill to do that. We're looking for touches on the ball, tons of them, and I just let them play, right? Inevitably, what will happen is the incoming player, see the guy in the yellow there, he's going to get that right there, a half volley, okay? And if I'm really doing this drill intelligently, I'm not just playing mindless tennis, I'm making sure that this guy here understands that his best shot is one that's low, not necessarily hard. That's a classic mistake these people make. I'll make sure these guys understand what they should do with the ball based on where they got it. I'll make sure this guy, so this gentleman here just got a half volley, right? If this guy is doing it right, what should he be doing? And he hunted, right? So there's a bunch of spin-off lessons. So then we would play this, and then we'll rotate ends, and one side will be the receiving, one side will be the attacking, and then we play to the backhand side. So it's triples. I know there's a drill out there, triples that cardio does. This is my version of triples. So it's pretty simple. And then we rotate. If we have multiple courts, like a court over here and a court over here, often I'll be running a 6-court program. Then we'll rotate it up and down as a team. Okay, so that's that one. Let me go to the next one here. All right, so this next one, no, that's triples. So let's see what this one is here. Okay, this is called doubles. Okay, doubles Russianette. Let me walk you through this one. So if you remember that diagram that I had, this is that actual drill that was represented in the diagram. So what we're trying to do here is get transition volleys, right? Oh, actually, this is a different one. So here's how it goes. So I got 2 players here, another 2 back there, 2 here, 2 here, okay? Right away, I can tell you, normally these guys would be very close. So real simple, I'd put these 2 yellow lines back there, and I'd space that out. I would make sure those 2 people on deck are literally touching the back tarp. So here's ball 1. They have to chase down a lob, okay, and they play it to win. And I'll feed accordingly based on, what I think is the level of the player. Ball 2, they come in, they transition, and if they win, they rotate. And then here comes the next team. So I just let this play for a while. You can see that particular lob that I fed was so high that after it bounced, it allowed for an overhead. And I'll mix that in, and sometimes I won't. Okay, here's a lob that see him chase it down. Probably not going to hit an overhead there, so he plays this out and you duke it out. Okay, so you can see I got on deckers chasing it down, and I got basically all doubles. And you'll see that almost always when I go with 8 on a court, I'm doing doubles points. Excuse me. So I think that's pretty important. This one's pretty fun. Notice what happens to this team at the baseline. As soon as I lob, they sneak in, okay? Because if you did successfully lob and they had to run back, then you probably should be up, not necessarily on top of the net, but up at the net. And you just rotate. So that's kind of that rotation for that one. So there's a bunch here. I'm going to go quickly because I don't want to run out of time. So let's see if I can pull up this next one. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, let's see what this guy is. I'm going to mute that. This large group one is called doubles rush the net. Okay, this is the one that was in the diagram. Okay, so you'll see I'll pause when I go to the top here. By the way, 2 players here, 2 players here, 2 players here, 2 players back here. You can't see them. So that's the adjustment I showed in that one PowerPoint slide. So ball 1, my team runs in. The pro side, that's me feeding, runs in and they play out the point. Okay, that's ball 1, and then the other team resets. They're still at the net now. This is ball 2. I just hit a pass. I feed them and they hit a pass and shot. Ball 3. Okay, now watch. Here's the auto rotate. So notice what's happening because I'm going to point out 2 things. Remember, this is the old way of rotating, how this player went that way and this player went that way, and you see how the other one's coming this way. So watch these two players right here. Boom, they're really close. And these two players right here, watch over there. They're really close. That was the old way that we did it. So that diagram showed you that now I would have both players go to the same side, okay? So this drill is pretty fun because it's all about transition volleys. The passing shots, we do a lot of teaching about what's a good passing shot. Is it necessarily hard, or is it low? Is it a knockout punch, or is it more of a 1-2 punch? And there's the auto rotate, okay? With the not so safe rotation on the direction, okay, where they're going opposite side. Okay, so watch what happened. These ladies found themselves into the net, but they have to reset. Okay, so they reset because they're the baseline team, and this is the net team, and this is ball 2. Okay, we always keep track of score. Everything is kept, we keep track all the time. We rotate up and down the courts, and even if I have only one court, I still want to add the scoreboard. So that's just a pet peeve. If my particular class is struggling and it's a drill they're not doing well, I might turn off the scoreboard and say, just let's play for fun, don't count it. Because counting, even in a drill, is going to add pressure, which for the most part I like, but not always. All right, so that's another little clever drill. Let's go through another one, okay? That's a new shirt, so it must be a new drill. Let me get, oh, this is recover doubles. This is a really interesting drill, very similar rotation. Okay, so, oh, sorry guys, let me go back here and pause right here. All right, so you'll see, same thing, on deck, back here, 2 here. These guys are coming in. There's some teeth here, but now I've made this more of a cardio drill. So I would not do this with necessarily, a senior team. They would probably hate it, but with a high performance team, some pretty good athletes, it's good. So I want you to notice what happens between the points. So this is the first point. There'll be 3 points. Okay, let's wait for it to finish. Okay, still going. Okay, now watch. Between points, oh shoot, guys, I made my classic mistake and I went back. So let me try to go back here and do this. Between points, each player must run to the doubles alley and touch it, the double sideline. So watch the players real quickly. I'll try to get my thing here. So you see how they all, like this guy went and touched that line, this guy went and touched this line. Basically, that rule just creates emergency situations. It creates drama. And both sides have to do it. So this drill is not only is it pretty cardio, actually this side doesn't have to do it, just my net team. So watch my net team again. Oh, he hits a tweener. Okay, so they're over, there's a rotate. So here comes ball 1. Watch these 2 guys between points, This is still going, go. They each go to their own alley, and that creates a semi-temporary hole in the middle, which creates pressure. Okay, pressure for the baseliner because there's a hole there. Also, what will happen is I get a lot more players practicing stretch volleys because I put them out of position and they have to stretch to cover that thing. So this is basically a much more advanced and cardio version of a drill, the 2 drills ago, which is pretty straight up. Okay, so that's that one. And now let's do this. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see what I got here. Okay, I think this is a new one yet. And I want to go through these quickly, and because there's a couple other things. So this is called pro passing shots. Okay, so let's just see how I started them, right? I got a team that started at the net on deckers, a baseline team, and there's a team hiding back here. So there's ball 1, and they go. So now what we have is the baseline team, if you notice, and the net team are going out to the alley. So this is another variation. Remember, what's a tennis drill? It's just a piece of a point. Okay, so are you cutting left and right? Are you ever moving hard to your left or to your right when you volley? Yeah, of course, all the time in tennis. So my drill creates that scenario. Okay, here's the 3rd ball. And she closes in and she misses it. Okay, here comes the next team. We'll watch this last threesome. So they start up. That's my wife Marty hitting that shot. Okay, they play it out, play to win. And there's always huddles and stuff going on, right? So the coaching in a drill, okay, happens what I call in huddles, right? So this drill might be going good, And every, probably every 5 minutes, I will say, everybody to the net. And they all jog in, and I'll just give them not a 30-second talk, but literally sometimes a 15-second little cheerlead. Like, hey guys, this is going great, but I need the baseliners. You got to consider more lobbing. You're not doing that. All right, keep up the hustle, and then we disperse and go. And I call those a huddle. And I think the most experienced court masters are doing huddles quite a bit. The key in a huddle is, no offense, but us tennis pros, I'm guilty, we can get wordy. We want to give all our knowledge out, so we end up talking and talking and talking. And they get knowledge, but the sacrifice is you don't hit enough balls. All right? So that's that one. That's the passing shot version. That's that one. So let's go on to this next one and see what we got here.
Check out this great game called
Mute that. Barn burner. Okay, so barn burner I learned barn burner from my good friend Butch Staples. So if you know Butch, he's a legendary coach, great with all levels. But this is very much a cardio, and I think you can go up to 10 players on this. So let me show you the setup for barn burner. I'm kind of talking to folks through it. So let's just pause right here. You notice there's no players on this side. So these two players next to me, the coach, they're the champions. I got a line of waiters, and I got a line of waiters over there, okay? So when I lob it, and I have to lob it way, way high, because these guys got to run all the way around and get it. Okay, so watch how that goes. They run, they run, they run. He's there, he's actually ready to hit an overhead. So he plays out that point. It's a 1-point drill. So if you lose, like they did, they go back to their line. If they win, they come back and they become the champions. So these champions stay because they won the point. Right? So those two lost the only point. So it's just a 1-point run. So here they come burning around the corner. They play to win. The challengers, okay, these guys won. So watch, they become the players, and my champions go into the line to wait. And here comes the next team. So it's called barn burner. Again, you got to be careful who you use this with. It's a lot of running. Great kids drill, great class ender. I would never bust this out on my 3.0 women's travel team that are seniors, because they would probably murder me. So you have to be a little smart about the levels, and not every drill is perfect for every level. But to be honest, most drills do work with most levels. Okay, so let's keep plowing through here. This was barn burner, I already showed you that. Okay, I'm gonna show now a couple of warm-ups. I've always studied how different pros and clubs do warm-ups. Everything from go run around the court 4 times to literally no warm-up whatsoever to everything in between. So if I can do a warm-up and it can be fun, then that's really my thing. I want to get a lot of people moving and having fun, and so they don't think it's boring or a drag. So here's what we're going to do. This is a single file line. I'm sorry that this particular video is not very high def, but I wanted to show it here because it's fun. I set up like a tic-tac-toe thing, right? Here's the 9 things of a tic-tac-toe. This is a team, and this is a team. So this is tic-tac-toe with basically a variation of like a competition. So the first 2 players run out, and they have a thing, right? One player has a, let me just pause this. So the yellow team put it there, the orange team put it here. Here comes the second players. When I run back and touch that player can come. So now watch, the yellow is putting here, that's the orange actually, what's she doing? So thinking about it, right? So now let's recover and see who comes next. Here comes the third people. They also have cones. You can see a cone there and an orange one there. And they're going to put it down. Okay, here comes the next. Oh shoot, guys, I did it again. So let me go here and let me go backwards, darn it. And I'm going to go to here and go all the way to there. So after the first 3 go in, the next people don't come with cones. They come with empty hands, and they're just going to move things. So what happens is they have to pay attention, and they got to move it where they think. So watch. I did it again. I'm famous for this. All right. I'm going to jump way out to here. So this next player, when they come, they're moving things. And this girl here is not realizing all she has to do, she's got yellow and yellow. But she's so stressed out, and her friends are yelling at her. Watch what happens in this game. What do I do? And boom, she figured it out. Okay? So let me turn the volume on so you can see how this game ends. and how exciting it is. I'll let you listen.
Here comes this one. They're moving it right to here. Oh, they win!
So we play several games, and I can tell you every time I set up this game, the kids are super fired up to do it, and now that they're all giving high fives to each other and stuff like that. So it's athletic skill with a little bit of a mental twist to it.
All right, check out the school game called Ring Around the Rosie.
Okay, Ring Around the Rosie, one of our favorite little drills. This one I actually pulled from our red ball class. So I'm going to explain what's going on, but I can tell you I used this one all the way up through middle school. Definitely works with orange ball as well. So I have these outer cones, okay? And I have these two middle cones. So what's going to happen is the players are going around the cone, and they each have their own balloon, and they're bopping it up because I want this age to work on skills above the head. If you know much about, young kid development, they're not the best when they're young and small with skills above their head. And tennis has things above the head. We have to be good up there for certain shots. So they'll keep going, and then I will eventually say rotate, and then they change direction. So now they change direction. And eventually I'm going to yell out the word pop, P-O-P. And when I, shoot, you guys are getting sick of me doing this. I'm always cutting it off too early. So when I say pop, their job is to hit it as high as they can in the air, run to this middle thing, touch it, and then come back and try to catch their balloon before it lands on the ground. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to say pop any second.
Correct.
Wait for it.
Yep, it's not a race. Just go nice and slow. Switch again. Oh,
Okay, they're switching.
Other direction. Pop.
That's pop.
High, touch. Grab your balloon.
So you see what they all did? They came here, and then they have to go back. Some will get their balloon before it bounces, and some won't.
Together one more time. Very good, you guys.
So let me
Grab
mute
your
that
favorite
again.
spot.
And I'll tell you one thing that I'm doing now. So let's just pause this for a second. So if I was doing this week, I see a problem already when it comes to doing it safely, right? This other part over here, it would be no problem. They all got their own balloon. I probably pop the balloon when they're done, so they're not passing balloons back and forth. I would not have these two middle cones quite so close. I might have maybe 4 of them, and I have almost like an inner line here. Because right now, all 6 of these players are going to try to get 2 feet away from each other here in just a second. So I believe that one of the better skills that you can develop as a coach is modifying. So in the past, we coaches are modifying. Basically, what we're modifying is, a drill to make it easier or shorter. So if we can use those same principles and say, how can I modify this drill to make it safer? So the rotations are different, the spacing is different. All right, I'm going to show this one here, and I'll walk you through it. This is 2 people doing it, but I do it 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. I can have up to 8 or 10 people doing this thing. So what's going to happen, and I'll walk you through this one, is I got my 2 athletes. This guy is the runner, quote unquote. He's going to run that way. And they're going to basically do rock, paper, scissors. Okay, so watch what happens here. They're going to go rock, paper, scissors. Okay, pause. This is not a match. He had scissors, he had rock. As long as it's not a match, they go again, and they go again. But whenever they match, whenever they have a match, this runner takes off that way. So you have to kind of pay attention. So let me just have you listen in.
He's going to run past that line, and you're going to chase him. Okay, go again. No match there. No match. There's a match, and that's the cool warm-up.
So that's a drill that I actually saw recently on the internet, and I liked it so much that I kind of modified it. So what I'm going to do before we get to the Q&A is, I'm sorry if I kind of went fast through that, but I do want to leave time for people to ask questions. And I know when I watch a drill, I don't need to watch 22 minutes of a drill. Just show me the gist of it, and if I get it, then I'll get it. So hopefully, there's just maybe at least 1 or 2 drills in there. You might say, you know what, I'm going to bring that one out of the vault and maybe use it. I'd love it if you could do that. Also, I'm open for some questions here, and you can take over a little bit if you want. But I see there's a bunch of questions in here, and I'll answer whatever you think.
Yeah, no, this has been great. And I think just you talking about how you're changing things up, I can see through the chat that it's starting to get people to their creative juices are flowing. And how can I change this drill? And how can I change that activity? What that last drill, that was rock, paper,
Yeah, rock, paper,
scissors,
scissors.
correct? It was just a kids game, rock, paper,
Yeah.
scissors that they do. And we've seen different
So,
variations of that.
so if it's a match, they run. Now, in that example, Adam was the one running. So now that he did run, they switch roles. And then the other kid would run. And we just do it forever. I did it with some orange ball kids maybe last Saturday. They didn't want to stop. It's a good sign when they don't want to stop doing a drill, that they kind of like it. And it's a first step, and it's kind of, it's interesting. So it's kind of creative. The other way I could have warmed them up, which unfortunately I see too much, is laps. I remember, and you and I are really good buddies with our old pal Kirk Anderson, and I think I don't know if he came up with this, but the three deadly L's: lines, laps, and lectures.
Yeah.
Okay, he always told me that avoid lines, laps, and lectures. Well, so many people are still they have lines, too many people waiting in line. They lecture too much, they're too wordy, and they run laps for warm-ups. That's the way I warmed up, by the way. Back in 70, whatever, that's how we warmed up. I remember every day at practice, unfortunately for us, our tennis courts at the high school were next to the football stadium, and that had a track around it. So every day, go run 2 laps around the track. Hated it. I got warmed up, but it was not very tennis specific, and no one liked it. People were coming late. The coach was always mad. The kids hated it, so they'd run 1 lap and cut through it was a hot mess. So,
well, and I think the key is tennis specific. And if you're trying to build up their endurance, okay, that's a good thing to do. But there's so many fun activities that are tennis specific that relate to the activities, because I loved how you pointed out that all these fantastic drills, they're not just drills to get people running and moving. You've got specific things that you're working on and you're pointing out as they go along. So I think everybody needs to go in with that idea as well.
yeah,
I love that idea of bringing them in for that little just quick hit, 10 seconds. Okay, boom.
It's just a shot of, sometimes it's a quick shot of instruction, sometimes just a quick shot of, encouragement.
Right.
When I talk, 1 or 2 things is going to come out, either encouragement or instruction. It doesn't have to always be instruction, okay? And in a group setting, I'm not a big fan of bringing them in and, here's what we're doing wrong, and here's what you're going to do, and here's what, they got to hit, touches on the ball. This is a phrase that entered my brain a long time ago. And I look at every one of the drills I have, and I got a lot of them, and I just kind of judge them through that filter. How are you hitting a lot of balls? If I'm teaching Ann and she's in my clinic and she wants to work on her ground strokes, and I set up a drill where she's not hitting tons of ground strokes, how good is that drill? Over time, if Ann's my student and in 1 month she's hit 4,000 ground strokes, but down the street is a competitor that's got better organized drills and their kid is hitting 10,000 ground strokes, that's going to matter.
Right. What about different abilities in large groups? How do you handle that?
Yep, it's a classic thing, probably one of the more important skills we have to teach our PTMers here. A couple classic ways to handle that. If it's appropriate, you can use transition balls, okay? So depending on the class you're teaching, that may or may not work for you. A little secret that I always do, to a degree, you can feed, without making it too obvious, you can feed accordingly, right? I have a phrase that the tougher or the better the player, the tougher the feed. So if I have a 5.0 and a 3.5 in my cardio, I'm not feeding those people the same ball. That 5.0 is getting a 5.0 feed because it's right for him. And the 3.0 is going to get a 3.0 feed. I also have had success. If I have that, I'll just do during the ball pickup, I'll cozy up with one of the better players. Let's say I have a really good player, and I'll say, hey, listen, you're really, really good compared to everybody here. I want to deputize you to be a secret weapon pro. So just be nice, hit balls. I know this isn't maybe the workout you wanted, but don't be like a the guy that embarrasses all the intermediate players whether you're hitting them in the face with all your great shots. And almost always they do it. And the last technique I do, which is my favorite, is I'll deputize somebody. I'll go up to somebody and say, hey, Nate, you're really, really good. And I got a new player here, Jennifer, she's new and she's a little scared. She's not as good, but will you partner with her? Will you kind of be her little mentor on this drill? We do this all the time in our cardio classes. And it works good because the person that you're going to, which is usually the best one, and I partner them with the newest, weakest one, they kind of feel honored almost like, oh, you want me to help out? Yeah, because you're so good, man. And 90% of the time that will work. Every 1 out of 10 might be like, I don't know. But those are kind of some tricks that I use that work pretty good. And of course, obviously, if you've got your programming and your levels set up right, you won't have that happen very often, but we all know it does, right?
Right. Yeah. So Greg Hires, who's wondering your thoughts on not keeping score during games to encourage trying new things, working on a particular stroke or tactic. Love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. Overall, I would say that we normally keep score because, at least in my life, most of the kids that are attending my junior program are woefully low on their sets in their tournaments. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of professional practicers. In our country, for good or bad, that's the way the industry's gone. It's become a lesson-taking society and less of a tennis-playing society. I don't love that because I grew up the other way. And I'm not against lessons. Obviously, I teach lessons for a living, but I think so many people are so out of whack. So one of my principles is because I know that so many of my kids aren't ever putting online, they're never experiencing scoreboard pressure, I try to add it in drill. But the times I won't is if it's a new drill and I'm kind of, my kids aren't used to it and they're learning it, I will say the first round or two, scoreboard's off, we're just cooperatively going through it and getting the hang of it. Once I think they got the hang of it, maybe after a round or two, I'll say, okay, let's add a scoreboard now. And we're going to start rotating up and down. I think if it's a new drill in particular and you have a scoreboard right at the beginning and they're losing and they're mad because they think they're losing, I don't understand the damn drill, Jorge, So that can be frustrating. And then also, sorry about my coughing, I'm trying to mute it when I can. Also, it depends on, I've worked with teams, USTA teams, where if we're working on a project, like say our whole team, we're working on overheads because they're complaining about getting loud. I might say, hey, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to set up a training session where we're going to hit balls. I don't care about the scoreboard. I'm turning it off because I don't want them to be too worried about it. So anytime a skill is new, where they might not be all that good at it, it's the same thing if I was teaching in private, right? Wide open is they're sparring and there's a scoreboard. And I can narrow it down to where I'm just hand tossing and it's really narrow. And then I open it back up. Let's spar with a scoreboard. Let's play a real match. Oh, that didn't work. Let's go back. Let's feed, so this hourglass idea, that's not unique to me, but I think that's important. I think to answer that, I think there's definitely times you want to do both. Overall, I would guess that 80% of the time I'm running a 2-hour class, we're keeping score. Not to mention, almost all our classes here, we're an indoor club, are multi-court. So today, in about 20 minutes, there'll be 4 courts of junior high kids, and we place them to start on the court, and then every drill we rotate. And my view of that is, I don't want to put them on a court and then have them be stuck on that court the whole time, because that's when I get calls from parents. Oh, you got Jennifer on the wrong court. And because we rotate, it solves that huge problem, which is like, well, Mrs. Jones, I put her on court 2 to start, but don't worry because everybody rotates up and down. So it's really hard for them to complain that, well, she's on court 4. Well, she's, we'll let people rotate. She can go all the way to 1. She can go all the way to 4. And for me, that was such an issue that it's worse than it's.
Yeah, and it's great. All the activities you showed can be tweaked a little bit for advanced players, for the beginning players. What about for adapting these for special needs tennis players?
Yeah, so really is special need or otherwise, I just think it's the skill level. So one of the best things to do, and you can do this exercise I'm going to tell you about for that, for special needs, for different levels. But when I go into a club, I don't do too much of this because I can't travel. But a lot of times a coach will see me, you know how it is, and you speak at a convention and they go, oh, I really like, and they come and talk to you afterwards. And maybe they subscribe to my website and they want to get those drills. And often, probably a couple times a month, I'll have a club call me and say, hey, Jorge, do you ever go to clubs? Like, what would it cost to bring you in here and have you meet with my pros? And when I can't do it very often, but when I ask my questions of those people, I go, what is it you want? They go, well, I got your website with your drills, but my pros don't do those drills like you do them. It's the same drill. It's a video of it, but they just can't replicate it. And I pretty much know what's going on. I think what happens is, usually what'll happen, that'll be a staff or a pro that are very poor with their modification skills. So when I do go in, this is probably literally every time I do this, I'll go on the court and I want to show them some drills, right? I'll show them some drills and I'll do hopefully the gold standard, and I'll show them. And then what we do is we split up. And I'll say, okay, so that was that drill. It's called doubles Russian net or whatever. Then I'll say, why don't you 2 guys or 3 guys or 4 girls, whatever, you go over there, you got 5 minutes, find 3 ways to make that drill more difficult. Let's say you're doing it and the people are bored and your high school kids are pretty good. And then I'll take the other half of the pros and say, go over there, you got 5 minutes, brainstorm 3 ways to make that drill easier, for maybe less experienced players or slower athletes or whatever. And then they come together and they do it. And that exercise of making them think and having that assignment, I don't think a lot of pros ever do that in their whole career. So by doing it for 5 minutes, they come back and lo and behold, they're like surprising themselves, like, oh, wow, I could. So if I would recommend that to every staff, if you're a director of tennis or even just a head pro or any pro, grab a couple of pros, don't even do my drills, do like your top 5 favorite drills from your club, and then modify and see who can get creative. There's some general things, you can always think about changing the direction of the ball, of the feed, making it competitive versus cooperative, making it auto rotate versus not auto rotate. So I would look at the situation at hand. If I'm working like with wheelchair players, well, obviously they're not going to get around the corners as quickly as a able-bodied person, so I might alter that. How can I do that? I find that when I ask those questions, unfortunately, a lot of pros are kind of probably a little lazy, and they're like, well, just tell me, give me 5 ideas. And I'm like, it's way better if you can learn the habit to do this. So I have over 2,000 tennis drills, and people say, how in the heck did you come up with 2,000 tennis drills? There's no way. Well, I can't remember 2,000 drills right now for sure. So I think tennis pros forget more drills than they can remember. And a lot of times you see a drill, maybe even some of the ones today, you kind of go, oh, I remember I used to do that. I'm bringing that one out of the closet. Or, hey, that reminded me of one that my college coach used to do. I'm going to bring that one out of the closet. So I think that's a skill that probably the best thing I ever did with my own staff. And when I go into other clubs, that little exercise is gold.
Great. Now, the activities you showed were with 8. So we're assuming that you're using 8. There's a question about the recommended number of participants to have on one court during the current COVID environment. USTA had previously posted 4 per court under the tennis playing safety guidelines. My guess is it depends on where you are and what is allowed locally.
Yeah, I think while you're talking here, I'm gonna try to pull up something. But I think you're absolutely right. So I live in Michigan, and right now, for good or bad, Michigan is pretty locked down. We were only allowed to come indoors like not even 2 weeks ago. So all the indoor clubs, there's 51 indoor clubs in Michigan. We were treated as a gym. That's the way our governor, labeled us, indoor gym. Now, my club doesn't have a single piece of gym equipment, and not one. So we were fine to be outside. But, I think it was earlier this month, like 2 weeks ago, they said, okay, gyms can open 25% capacity. And the current rule today is that both the instructor and the player has to wear a mask, even on the court. Now, I have friends in Ohio and all over the place that they can't even believe that. They think that's the strangest thing ever. But it really varies quite a bit.
Yes.
Um, and if it's with your permission, Ann, I'm going to try to show people something. I hope this
Sure. And
works.
then we got a couple questions about high school tennis. We
Yeah,
want
I'd
to
love to do that.
get to
Do you
those.
see
And
my?
I'm so glad you're showing this, because we did have a question about um, where to find good tennis drills, and they
Yeah,
mentioned what USTA has, and the community and coaches, and on Net Generation, and then people definitely look at this as well. So go ahead, Jorge.
yeah. So first of all, um, I love new drills. Okay, so this is my website. It's a tennis coach's website. It is a subscription website, but I'm logged in here. You can see under drills, I have singles drills, doubles drills. These are all my drill categories. And once you click it, a singles, like I just clicked the singles category, it loads up that library. And in this example alone, there's probably over 200 singles drills just for singles drills, right? So I could watch it, okay? And I could watch it high def, I could watch it full screen, I could print a diagram of all these drills. But what I was going to show you is under large group, I actually have 3 categories. So why would I put this on my website? Because I know that a lot of coaches are looking for this, particularly high school coaches. Now, I also know that there's some of my country club pro friends, they say, Jorge, I will never have 8 on a court. If I put 6 on a court, I'll get murdered. And that's fine, but sometimes you have to do it because of rain or whatever. So I showed you a lot from this category here, frankly. This is 8 on a court. I think I have, 45 in that category. But there's also 12 on a court, okay? And we could have talked about that a lot. And I have, in here, I got another 13. But here's what I wanted to show you. Some people ask me, I got 16 on a court. Well, that's fine if that's your reality. That happens here in Michigan when, I'm going to make this big. That happens in Michigan during high school tryouts, to be honest with you, because it's still snowing outside and they have to go into a gym. So what I'm going to show you here, I'm just going to pause, okay? So this is the top camera. You can see I got a mini court. This is just your basic setup, 6 red ball courts. Notice these are not red ball kids. This is my academy. It was raining this day. And I wanted to show how you could take up to 24 people on one court and have them do something productive. Now, I have chosen to go on a modified court with a foam ball. And immediately, some people would say, well, forget it. I can't do it. I got high school players. But here's my view on that. Are you so insistent on a yellow ball over the regular court that you're willing to have, 20 people in line? Or is it better, I'm just going to mute this and watch. Watch how much ball hitting is going on. Yes, it is a foam ball. Yes, it is a shorter court. But I have 24 people hitting and moving and hitting and moving, and no one's really standing in line. So to me, this is just my view. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I would do this. Is it perfect? No. I hope I never have to have 24 on a court. But if I'm in a gym or if in that kind of scenario, I'm doing some kind of fun game, these things are actually turn out to be pretty darn fun.
And actually,
So,
Jorge, that's pretty socially distanced, what
yeah,
you had. And my guess
exactly.
is if you were doing a big class with red ball kids, you could
Yep.
have a setup like that and still
Yeah,
and still be safe.
exactly. I think that's for sure true. So, um, yeah, I think, and you and I have been friends forever, and you've been up here, and you've filmed things here at our
Mhm.
club. Um, I'm a nut for drills because and I don't even teach that much anymore, but when I did, and I have 63,000 hours of teaching experience, that's why my knees don't work. But when I got a new drill, man, I was happy for like a month. I would bring that to every class. I'd modify it. I was so happy. And I went to, I don't know, I think I'm on a record 32 world conferences in a row. Um, I love that kind of stuff. And obviously, after you go to 32 years in a row, not everything I hear is new anymore compared to when I was a rookie pro. But I always still pick up 2 or 3 ideas. So to me, the number one struggle that coaches deal with when it comes to drilling is you got your best hits, you got your 5 or 6 drills that you really like, and you use them exclusively, and it's not enough. And I don't even think you certainly don't need 2,000. You don't need 100. But when I can show somebody a new drill and they can work it into their thing, I think that's gold, and I think your players would appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the couple of questions about high school tennis. So Angsley Williams asked, let's say you're coaching a high school tennis team. You don't have anyone else to help you feed balls. So you typically do a lot of self-feed drills. How would you manage the ball handling and sanitization without sacrificing the integrity of the drill or the experience of the player? There's a lot in there.
Yeah, couple thoughts. So let me tell you what our position this summer was when it came to touching balls for players. As a staff, we put out, we are going to limit, but not eliminate, the kids touching the balls. So what we recognize they're going to touch the ball. We decided we didn't want to have a glove when they served and all that stuff. So, but normally after every round, which is like a 5-minute round, you pick up, you do it again. We're picking up balls in a 5-hour academy, like, I don't know, 20 times maybe. So what we did this summer is we said to the kids, you can touch a ball, but we prefer during ball pickup that you just push them all through the net, and I have my pro with a hopper. So right there, we cut it by 80%, because the way we used to do that is every kid would touch every ball pickup. So that's a lot. But we didn't feel that we could say to our families, you know what? Your kid will never touch the ball. It's not going to happen here. So that's one position we took. Other things that I did not do, but I know have worked from hearing from my pro friends, is that they have the kid wear a glove on the left hand, or their non-dominant hand, frankly, and they practice with it, because that's the one they would likely be touching the ball with. Your non-dominant hand, you pick it up to hit a forehand, you pick it up to serve. So that's one thing. And you could probably come up with others, but we have a thing at the club that I actually looked about sanitizing the balls. I even looked this summer, like there's these weird things that you can hover over your ball, some light, and it kills. But the more I searched it, and the more we were outside in the sun, I wasn't totally terrified that the ball was going to be an issue, but I knew it could be. I couldn't look someone in the eye and say, guarantee you it's not going to happen. But that wasn't a high touch point for me that I was too worried about. So I think the glove was a pretty clever idea, and we're talking a rubber glove or whatever. You can wear one of those golf gloves if you want. Some people like that, and our position is whatever you want to do. If you don't want to touch the ball at all, don't touch it. You don't want to come because we have to wear a mask inside, I'll give you your money back. I'm not about to fight with people. I happen to be on a campus, so our campus is, like all campuses, are super worried about a breakout and sending kids home because they lose millions. So we are pretty tight here. Like right now there's kids showing up, they got a mask, they're inside, they're going to keep that mask indoors the whole time. And it's not the funnest experience, but we have some
and
side
at least
doors.
they're able to get out there.
Yeah.
What about best drills for high school girls and helping them get comfortable with the pace at the net?
Okay, so here's how I would explain that. There's really 5 categories. And by the way, the way I would recommend people do a practice, high school or other, is the 5-play situation. So these are not unique to me. I did not invent these. But when you play tennis, you only do 5 things, only, okay? And here's what they are. You could be serving, you could be returning, you could be playing from the baseline, you could be approaching the net or playing at the net, or you could be hitting passing shots or lobs because the other guy's at the net. And if you think about it, that's it. You're never doing anything but one of those 5 things. So I have a thing at our club that we call the promise. It's up on the wall, and it says, every lesson you take here, our promise to our students is you will train all 5 situations. We're not going to have even one single practice where we ignore the serve or the net or the baseline. Doesn't mean we practice them all equal amount of time. Like we don't practice the serve for 30 minutes, but we're going to practice serves, and we're going to practice returns, not for an hour, but we're going to practice it. So I would make sure that you're doing it. The thing I see a lot of high school coaches struggling with is, and this is a good example, my team's not very good at the net. Well, that's common. A lot of tennis players are higher in their baseline skills than their net skills. That's like the whole world's that way. A lot of pros are this way. So the difference doesn't freak me out. It's when this difference is so big that it's exploitable. That's what freaks me out. So I don't even care that you raise your level of net play to your level of baseline play. I'm cool. I'm pretty sure Agassi made millions doing this. Okay, so I don't care that they're lying, but I do care if they're so far apart that you're really out of balance. So I would, number one, I do it. Number two is all your volley drills, measure them based on touches on the ball. Touches on the ball. So I have a game called Cuban Davis Cup. It's probably on YouTube if you Google Cuban Davis Cup. We did research, and if you play doubles, and I did this, we play 8-game process college doubles, think 4.5 to 5.0 level players. And I counted multiple hours how many volleys were hit by a player. Okay, so this is Jorge's scientific little survey. On average, it was 24 volleys. Okay, so I used to say to people, if you want to improve your net game, play more doubles. Because in my brain, you hit thousands of volleys in doubles. Well, turns out you don't hit that many volleys in doubles. And these players were all quarters. They weren't necessarily chickening out. So they do hit 24 volleys in an hour. It was way more volleys than they hit in a singles. In the singles hours, it was like 4. It was like shockingly low. But I had to step back and say, I've been telling people for homework to play doubles and doubles and doubles, expecting a big increase in their net improvement. And I realized that ain't cutting it. 24 volleys in an hour, that's like a volley every 2 minutes.
Right.
So we changed the game. We invented this game called Cuban Davis Cup, where Ann and I are a team. We play another team. I feed it cross court, and I go in and I only play cross court. And let's say I win the point. So our team, Ann and I, are up 15-11. And then Ann takes off. She feeds and attacks to the ad. When she's done, I go the deuce. And we play a set that way. And because it's half court, and because you kind of have to go through me, the touches on the ball in the hour go over 200. Over 200.
Wow.
Okay, so ask yourself, well, what are you doing? I know a lot of coaches are setting up drills. Well, let's play doubles or let's play points. You ought to make sure that if you're not hitting hundreds of volleys, it's going to take forever for them to really see marked improvement. So ball count is my answer to that.
Okay.
Set up a drill and check it out.
So unfortunately, as we typically do, we could go on for another good 30, 40 minutes going through the questions, picking your brain, Jorge, but I do have one last question, and this is going to be probably a double challenge because this needs to be maybe a 1 or 2 word answer.
Sure.
What is your favorite, just one, favorite all-time drill?
Overhead game.
Oh, okay.
So
I like
overhead game is a game where I got, let's say there's 6 on the court. I got 2 people here, like on the baseline, they're the champions. On the other side, I have a doubles team and another doubles team. And it's a 3-ball drill. I feed it short. The other team comes in, and they play out the point against the champions. And then the champions are always at the baseline. Ball 2, I lob, and they hit an overhead to play it out. Ball 3, I lob, they hit an overhead. The third ball is always the money ball. So the third ball, and only the third ball, determines if you run around. So there's a little bit of pressure. And when I go money ball and I lob it up there and everybody's looking, it adds pressure. But the reason is because that game, not only is it fun because you get to dethrone people and become champions, and it works on transition skills, it works on defensive volley skills. But my experience is in high school in Michigan, there's 12 people that play varsity, 8 of them are doubles and 4 of them are singles. So twice as many doubles players. So in my life, I used to have high performance players. I don't have that anymore. I have 3 people win gold balls. That's not even close to my life anymore. I have all these kids that I want them to do good in high school. That's why they come and pay for lessons here, because they want to do well in high school. And when I watch high school matches and when I talk to high school coaches, they say, man, in doubles, their overheads are so unreliable, shockingly unreliable. And they're scared, they're missing, they're tapping it. So we do that game. It takes overheads and puts them through the roof. So if I had to do one drill and never any other drill, for that, I would probably.
Wow, and I thought I was going to stump you with that question, but that is not.
Well, guess what? I've been asked that question a lot when I speak at conventions.
All right.
So I thought about it a few times.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic. A reminder to everyone, this is being recorded. It will be on the Tennis Industry United website later today. Tomorrow, yes, next week, Wednesday, how to start a wheelchair tennis program. This is great information. Love it. And thank you so much, Jorge. And
Yeah, thank you,
also,
Ann.
last thing to everyone, if you're a USPTA or PTR member, I do send in the attendance list to each of the organizations, so you can check with them on whether you get credit for the webinar.
Yeah, and Ann, thank you again for your time. And people, you don't have to go to the Tennis Drills website. That does cost money, but if you go to our capestanytennis.com, you'll see the free website, over 300 YouTube instructional videos. I'll just show you. It's simple. It looks like that. If you just go here, that's what it'll look like. You click here for the free one. You click there for the paid one. But capestanytennis.com, and you can get a ton of free instruction right here on this one, including super high def slow motion footage of the pros playing, at a live tournament. So hopefully they can tap into that free stuff.
Good. Thanks so much. And thanks
Okay,
everyone
guys,
for
thank you,
joining
and
us.
thank you, Ann, and good luck with everybody.
All right. Take care.
Okay.